Hey there, YouTubers. It's Friday the 13th, September 2019. So I think I'm going to be tapering off a bit here because this is the detritus of a pretty good class last night. We're looking into Jupyter notebooks, talking about named arguments. In Python, you can have arguments that don't have an equal sign involved. That's one way to recognize the difference. If there's an equal sign involved, as you see here, we tend to call that a named argument. And early in a Python class, which is what we are, I start to preview a lot of concepts without drilling down too deeply. It's just like this is the flavor of what we're going to be learning a lot. We start the classical way, really. I'm not that radical in some of my approaches. I do have eval going though, pretty early. I want to show round trip, right? Taking a string like a bit string here, the little 0b, the prefix there, that means what follows is a binary number, and then we expect ones and zeros only coming after that kind of signature. It's a lot of times a string will sort of herald what's coming on the far left with some kind of like signature. It's like this is what's coming, octal number. Here's another one. There's a herald. 0x. It's like hexadecimal number coming, and that's why A is okay, right? So this is the kind of thing I do for a living a lot, and when I'm not teaching a full load, then I can do YouTubes to stay in practice, kind of. So now I'm not staying in practice, I'm doing. But never mind, we're going to have some videos, just maybe not as often. Today's theme, after all that, is kind of Aristotle, but in a negative way, not negative of him. I'm coming to have much more respect because I'm doing more homework. I went in through the Heidegger door, which I hadn't been going through. But Chris got into it, CJ, and what the heck. So I read concerning technology stuff and listened to a bunch of YouTubes, and that got me into Aristotle. And if you read that, you probably get that makes sense, right? Given the content. So I'm bumping around in Aristotle and developing some respect there, long overdue. For those just joining us, I was a Princeton product of Princeton philosophy department and religion department. Because to take the best Wittgenstein stuff, you sometimes had to go across the line to religion, but they were both in the same building anyway. What was that hall number again? Some year, right? It's going to come back to me later. So anyway, also a thread lately, like just go back one video, I'm all about protein folding, right? And so here we are talking about protein folding. And this YouTube, I'm still on the Aristotle thing. I haven't stopped. Just bear with me here. Here on this YouTube, The Protein Folding Problem, A Major Conundrum of Science by Ken Dill. Great talk. Just heard it. Nice intro there. That's what we call an intro. We have intro and outro. So he's talking about proteins as machines, and why don't we have some macro machines that are more like proteins that operate on the same principles? And he says, our electric motors, that's not how proteins work. And, there are a lot of things that aren't like proteins. So maybe we can learn from proteins in building macro machines. And I'm agreeing. I think it's a great idea. Like a football helmet, that's kind of what a protein does. It protects you by shape. You're banging some, it's kind of gladiatorial, right? The football, we don't see it that way. It's just good, clean kids having fun. But, it's leading to lots of hurt and injury, and we're up there eating hot dogs. And that's just for starters, right? Rome is still Rome, right? Colosseum. I like the Colosseum. Not saying bad things about the Colosseum. In terms of a building, that is, like, and I've never seen it in its pristine state. So I just want to say, I think gears are kind of how proteins work. And that got me back to thinking about this Antikythera mechanism, which I'm just looking at the Wikipedia entry because Wikipedia also has been a theme lately. But if you really want to do a lot of research, don't just stick around Wikipedia, like take a deep dive. I've watched whole documentaries, really well-made ones, about this whole project to reconstruct the Antikythera. There was a lot of analysis of it, very deep analysis, and then actual reconstruction. And there's a sense of, what it was, but who made it? And I was thinking maybe Aristotle was getting credit, but I got that wrong. Going through here, I'm seeing, and that's what I meant by at the beginning. I said, this is kind of about Aristotle, but in a negative way. I just mean, I guess, no, he's not the one who invented this thing. There's the beautiful picture of the recreation. So this is way BC, what you're seeing here. I mean, not with the fancy plastic there, plexiglass, whatever that is. That's what I want to build from. I've got this thing called Holding It Together, a piece of art, and this is kind of the material I want to use, beveled. I've got pictures of it. I've kind of submitted the designs, but I haven't built it yet. Maybe I won't, but there's the kind of technology. But I'm not talking about the gears. My thing is not like that. The gears are, though, come from like BC 200. So that's crazy, right? I mean, we didn't know how, and in general, there's been a lot of pushing the timeline back. That seems to be what we do in terms of our appreciation for the depth of history, right? And I'll end with kind of an obligatory citation to Fuller, because this channel, Bucky Fuller, is about his philosophy a lot, and I like to touch on that. I think where he deliberately goes off the deep end in some places, because there has to be a deep end, I think. Like, you can't really you can hide out at the shallow end, but you still have to point in the direction of the deep end. And Fuller has some writing that, at that point, he sort of links into the poets like E. E. Cummings and stuff in the introduction. It's like fair warning. And, then he dives into what you might call tall tales. And it's all very maritime. It's like sailor talk, right? It's like, and a lot of sailor talk does sound pretty tall tale, especially if you're a landlubber and you've never seen a whale and some guy comes in talking about whales. Pretty soon you're going to believe in him, even if you never see him, because a lot of people talk about him. But you know what I'm saying. You might see even a different creature like a giant squid and no one believes you about that, and so on. So the sailors are typically considered to be, you don't know whether to believe them or not, if you're a landlubber especially. Lots of tall tales. So Fuller kind of wades in pretty deep sometimes, but mostly in just like pushing back the timeline and following maritime tech. His theme, his way of telling history is, let's take what we call our highest tech, which he's going to say is navigation and the ships that have to follow the navigation, right? So it's kind of like there's trigonometry. If there is trigonometry, you're in better shape, right? And if there's gears, that's probably going to mean something. You're going to have better models of the universe, whatever. So, and this goes back further than we thought, is what Fuller is saying in some ways. And he would say back to, civilizations long before planet Earth, because I think you can read him as saying, he believes that there's been intelligent life in the universe for a long time, but he doesn't really talk in those terms. And he's not like about UFOs. He's not a chariots of the gods. So I would call that kind of off the deep end stuff. But he comes off in a different deep end, right? He's in a different deep end. But there are parts of his writing that are like that. And then there's other parts that are just like what I spend a lot of time with, the octet truss, IVM, FCC, CCP, all that stuff. Close packed rhombic dodecahedra, that's just pure Greek in flavor in terms of just pared down Platonic geometry. It's got nothing going really, except he's got some contributions to make. Unit volume tetrahedron being connected to the ETUs of is it Wayne Roberts, right? Talked about that a lot. So check back in my earlier YouTubes. Use the keyword Utrigon to find some of my stuff, if that's interesting. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.